This country is in a revolution. They're sick and tired of what they're getting, and I happen to be lucky enough to be part of it.
It has been said that when in the course of human events, an oppression so revolts its subject that it becomes necessary to alter or abolish the means of that tyranny. Is it that time when our Bill of Rights is defiled every day? When our adventures abroad threaten our security at home? When the Federal Reserve keeps our free nation enslaved by debt? When the people of the world tremble under the thumb of corporate imperialism? And now, our nation is drifting dangerously from freedom to fascism. So I have to ask, is it time?
And now, from the luxurious albino raccoon recording studios located in the Midwestern heart of America, it's the last Voice for Liberty Network. And here's your host, The Mouth.
Fellow patriots, it is time. The last Voice for Liberty Network. I am your host, The Mouth. We'll welcome you here to the 4th day of December. Yes, I took a day off yesterday, folks. I needed it. Had to reboot, bust the old system back into place and reorganize a few things. Listened to some tunes. Went and saw my son play basketball. And now I'm right back here to get you on through the rest of your week. Here on the last Voice for Liberty Network, bringing the truth and the liberty to you. We're going to start off today's episode with a piece that was written by a gentleman named Donald E. Jennings about the voter fraud. It's getting... Everybody's waking up and seeing this, folks. This is not a joke. This is not just so we're going to sweep it under the rug. Well, the mainstream media, they're obviously trying to sweep it under the rug because nobody's reporting on it except for Fox. They're the only ones that have said anything about it. So, what happens? Well, a majority of Americans, when they don't see it on their mainstream media feeds, start to believe in this crap. It's what it is. It's a load of crap. In 2010, there are some poll-watching observations made. And that's where this gentleman's point of view is coming. And we're just going to read a little bit of it as it states from a 2010 poll watcher's observations. Now, in 2010, as I poll watched the voting, I became concerned about the voting machines themselves and asked the question, how and when are these voting machines tested just prior to the beginning of actual voting? Anybody should be asking these questions about the voting machines. The blatant, just the word machine. It's man-made. When you have something that's made by another human being, that means that the possibility for it to be flawed or rigged ranks way up there. This isn't nobody would do that. Bullshit. You give somebody enough money, they'll do it. There were, in 2010, as he watched the voting at the polls, he noticed that there were no Democrat poll watchers at the precinct that were busy tallying their voters like there were in 2010 this year, in 2012. Now, in 2010, the Democrats were very good and active. So that again would automatically bring up the concern that he had in 2010 as to the Republican poll watchers there about these voting machines, especially when one of the other poll watchers indicated that he was a professional IT guy and said there's no way that the machines can be tampered with. Now, the other poll watcher, a lady, understood immediately my concern that voting machines can be reprogrammed electronically to do anything you want them to do. That is exactly what, we're just saying. You can always find someone, and now the IT then tried to defend his position by saying that the programmers are just paid guys. Why would they do it? And that's exactly it, folks. You pay, you can pay somebody, people do a lot of shit for money. Including defrauding the rest of America. They don't care as long as their life gets better. Now, Congress is already starting to urge, well, Congress is being urged, actually, to start investigating this. Because this is, it's gotten so blatant and so out of control. Now, we've already covered this before on this program, and, I've told you how third world dictators don't get the voting results that Barack Obama got this year. GOP poll inspectors were illegally removed from voting locations, and then a judge had to reinstate them, say, hey, you can't do that. But by then, there's a few hours there before the judge ever made his decision that it would even be accepted. Before they would even be let in. They were not let in. They were forcibly removed, illegally removed. And so there's your opportunity to have some voter tampering right there. More than 100% of the registered voters were turning out to vote in counties all over the country, in Florida, in Ohio. You're getting voter tallies that, you got 108 registered voters in the county just to throw out a number. And 165 people vote. So I need to explain that one. I tell you exactly why that happens. I'm taking these off, I don't care what you... I tell you exactly why that happens. They call people out. It's called phishing. You call up prospective voters, registered voters, and you feel them out. See which way they're going. If they are going, I'm not even messing with it, don't even talk to me. Click. Or if they actually come right out and say, I'm not voting this year. That person already has your name and phone number. All they got to do, especially like I said here, you go in to vote, and what happens? You just tell this lady your name, and she looks it up in a book. If your name's in that book, they let you vote. I was shocked. I had my voter ID card and my driver's license ready to go in my pocket. My hand was wrapped around it as I stood in line waiting to tell the lady. And the guy in front of me just tells her his name. She looks up and he walks over and votes. I was like, I pulled my stuff out. So here. No, I'm going to prove who I am. And that's the way you need to do it. Don't let them blatantly break the rules. Don't let them blatantly have a chance to take things over. Absentee ballots counted while neutral observers were blocked from supervising in Florida. That happened. That whole debacle in Florida reeks to high heaven of fraud and corruption. Computers were reverting to a default Obama vote, regardless of whom the voter was selecting. That was reported all over. A gentleman actually testified to Congress about this. This was no joke, people. He came and testified to Congress about writing the program for these for a, oh boy, what's that guy's name? Tom Feeney, the Speaker of the House of Florida at that point in time. Here we go. Here's a little soundbite. We'll play a little bit of this.
Mr. Curtis, would you please state your full name for the record?
My name is Eugene Curtis.
And where do you reside?
Tallahassee, Florida.
And what is your profession?
I'm a computer programmer.
Would you please speak into the microphone so the audience can hear your testimony?
I'm a computer programmer.
Mr. Curtis, are there programs that can be used to secretly fix elections?
Yes,
How do you know that to be the case?
because in October of 2000, I wrote a prototype for President Congressman Tom Feeney at the company I work for in Oakland, Florida that did just that.
And when you say did just that, it was rigging an election.
It was
A little bit of trouble there. I think I need to fire my sound guy. Yeah, you. I don't care if it's your studio or not. Fix the shit. You ragtag fool. Anyway. You heard him up there, folks. He said flat out, I wrote the program for the Speaker of the House of Florida to rig the election. They would flip it. 51 to 49, whichever way you wanted to do it. Could it be found out? Could you find a digital footprint of it later? No, because the computer, once the vote is tallied, then that program, he goes on to say, has like a self-destruct mechanism which automatically causes the program to eat itself. You would never know it was there. They've explained it. They explained how to do it. Man, I just don't understand how people can ignore these things. You know, out of 175,554 registered voters in St. Lucie County, Florida, okay, 247,713 vote cards were cast. The number's right there. That's such a discrepancy that it automatically draws up a red flag. Now, as we've reported before, the Republican Party is not going to challenge us for the fraud. And that's why they've become practically impotent in the world of politics as of now. Really, they have. When you can't challenge blatant fraud that would even cost you the election because you entered into an agreement, a consent decree 30 years ago? Now, what good are you? Democrats can come right out and do fraud, and you can't say anything about it. What good are you? You're nothing. The Washington Times reported its suspicions of voter fraud in Pennsylvania. The new Black Panthers were standing outside the polling booths. They didn't have the nightsticks. 70 Republican polling inspectors were blocked from access. 70! They came right out and did it. And by the time anybody could stop it, or put a right to it, then guess what? Damage already done, folks. A blog, Pundit Press, reported that in Florida, Obama got 99% in the Broward County precincts alone. Over 99%. That same site also reported this headline. It said, what luck, Obama won dozens of Cleveland districts with 100% of the vote. What luck. He won a county in Ohio with 108% voter registration. St. Lucie County had 141% turnout. Where the GOP inspectors were removed, you ask? He got over 99% of the votes there. The turnout was somehow 30% above the government numbers. You could raise the argument, well, the government doesn't know exactly how many people are out there. And you could come in and register to vote right then. Exactly. Or you only got to tell them, or bring somebody else's electric bill or something in. Or just get an electric bill in. All you got to do is get an electric bill put up in your name. And all you need is 1 month. That's all you need. If they've got if there's a person who has an established residence in a city where your requirement to register to vote if you don't have an ID is to bring in a utility bill of some sort, which is something that they accept at places, then you get you can have anybody come. Call up your electric company. Say, yeah, we're switching this over to such and such's name. Do that a couple weeks before the election, get the bill in his name. He takes it in, registers to vote. That guy doesn't even have to live in that county. That name doesn't even have to be real. They don't ask for ID when you ask for electric service. Just so you know that. It's when it gets this blatant, folks, the people need to stand up. The Republican Party wants to be limp-dicked on this. Let them. I know that's exactly what they're doing. That's how it is. In Broward County alone, in Ohio, which was a battleground state. Now, once he won Ohio, they called it right there. President Obama received 106,258 votes. But there are only 98,213 eligible voters. This doesn't mean registered voters. This means people that are of age in the county. It's not humanly possible to get 108% of the vote. The sheer physics, I don't know, any of you, I don't know what they're teaching in schools nowadays. Maybe I should ask the kids in the morning before they go. Does 100% still mean everything? Because 108%, I don't know. Now, Fox News has also documented how Senate candidate Wendy Long, who is an attorney who was a clerk for the Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, recounted her voting experience. Okay, a poll worker who was at the scanner studied her private ballot and then proceeded to tell her that it was rejected because she did not fill in every space, which is a lie. They cannot reject your votes at all. The poll worker, then proceeded. This isn't a poll observer. Poll observers can be partisan. Poll workers cannot. But she proceeded to indicate that she should mark the Democratic line all the way down. You see, we've got to understand that if we as a people don't stand up against this, they will continue it, and they will keep pushing it and get it as far as they can go. Think I'm lying? Think this is a joke? Watch. 6,000 new laws and regulations Section Day I put on the books. 6,000 people. And those are on the businesses alone. The taxes are going to go up. They're going to keep pushing and pushing and taking your freedom as long as we let them. Until we unite and stand up and get against it, we're just going to lose and lose and lose and lose. Let's take a quick break here, folks. We'll be right back on the last voice for Liberty Network.
President.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. I'll make our government open and transparent so that anyone can ensure that our business is the people's business. And as president, I'm going to make it impossible for congressmen or lobbyists to slip pork barrel projects or corporate welfare into laws when no one's looking. Because when I'm president, meetings where laws are written will be more open to the public, no more secrecy. That's a commitment I make to you as president. When there's a bill that ends up on my desk as president, you, the public, will have 5 days to look online and find out what's in it before I sign it. When there are meetings between lobbyists and a government agency, we'll put as many of those meetings as possible online for every American to watch. When there's a tax bill being debated in Congress, you will know the names of the corporations that would benefit and how much money they would get. And we will put every corporate tax break and every pork barrel project online for every American to see. You will know who asked for them, and you can decide whether your representative is actually representing you.
Not negotiating behind closed doors, but bringing all parties together and broadcasting those negotiations on C-SPAN so that the American people can see what the choices are. Because part of what we have to do is enlist the American people in this process.
These negotiations will be on C-SPAN, and so the public will be part of the conversation and will see the choices that are being made.
We will work on this process publicly, streaming over the net.
I'm in this race to tell the lobbyists in Washington that their days of setting the agenda are over. They will not work in my White House. It's when lobbyists set the agenda, and that's why they won't drown out your voices anymore when I am President of the United States of America. Having inherited a $1 trillion deficit that will take a long time for us to close, we need to focus on what we need to move the economy forward, not on what's nice to have. And that's why on Monday I held a fiscal summit to come up with a plan to put us on a more sustainable path. And that is why, as we develop a full budget that will come out this spring, we're going to go through our books page by page, line by line, to eliminate waste and inefficiency. We have already identified $2 trillion in deficit reductions that will help us cut our deficit in half by the end of my first term.
The process whereby Guantanamo will be closed no later than 1 year from now.
So let me be absolutely clear. If you are a family making less than $250,000 a year, you will not see your taxes go up. I am not an ideologue. I'm not. Pay for what we spend by the middle of the decade. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you've got health insurance, you like your doctor, you like your plan, you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan.
No matter what you've heard, if you like your doctor or health care plan, you can keep it.
For the first time in more than a decade, imports accounted for less than half of what we consumed. Job growth was the weakest of any economic expansion between 2001 and 2008 since World War II. I don't want to run auto companies. I don't want to run banks.
I think we can get a lot of work done fast. When I met with the governors, all of them have projects that are shovel-ready.
Shovel-ready was not as shovel-ready as we expected.
I would convene a continuous advisory meeting with not just Democrats but Republicans, specifically on national security issues, because there is a long tradition that
Our differences in foreign policy should end at the water's edge.
But I do want to make this point, and I think it's important. On the one hand, the majority has to be inclusive.
Mark my words, it will not be 6 months before the world tests Barack Obama like they did John Kennedy.
I'm going to spend some money on the key issues that we've got to work on. You may have seen your health care premiums go up. We've got to reform health care to help you and your budget. We are going to have to deal with energy because we can't keep on borrowing from the Chinese and sending money to Saudi Arabia. And what I've proposed, you'll hear Senator McCain say, well, he's proposing a whole bunch of new spending, but actually I am cutting more than I'm spending so that it will be a net spending cut. The key is whether or not we've got priorities that are working for you as opposed to those who've been dictating the policy in Washington lately, and that's mostly lobbyists and special interests. We've got to put an end to that.
My administration has a job to do as well. And that job is to get this economy back on its feet. I love these folks who help get us in this mess and then suddenly say, well, this is Obama's economy. That's fine. Give it to me. When I arrived in the White House, I had a $1.3 trillion deficit wrapped in a bow waiting for me. I'm bringing this up not to relitigate the past. I just don't want to relive the past. You know, it was hard enough. It's been hard enough trying to rescue this economy the first time. I don't want to have to do it a second time.
So if somebody wants to build a coal-powered plant, they can. It's just that it will bankrupt them because they're going to be charged a huge sum for all that greenhouse gas that's being emitted.
The long-term deficit and debt that we have accumulated is unsustainable. We can't keep on just borrowing from China or borrowing from other countries. Businesses will be less likely to invest and open shop in a country that seems unwilling or unable to balance its books. And if our creditors start worrying that we may be unable to pay back our debts, that could drive up interest rates for everybody who borrows money, making it harder for businesses to expand and hire or families to take out a mortgage. While we must add to our deficits in the short term to provide immediate relief to families and get our economy moving, it is only by restoring fiscal discipline over the long run that we can produce sustained growth and shared prosperity. And that is precisely the purpose of the budget I'm submitting to Congress today. In keeping with my commitment to make our government more open and transparent, this budget is an honest accounting of where we are and where we intend to go. Just as a family has to make hard choices about where to spend and where to save, so do we, as a government. I've got two daughters, 9 years old and 6 years old. I'm going to teach them, first of all, about values and morals. But if they make a mistake, I don't want them punished with a baby. So I've been a little amused over the last couple of days where people have been having these rallies about taxes. You would think they would be saying thank you. Start a new program? Go ahead. But you've got to cut another one to pay for it. That's how we'll make sure we're spending your money wisely. And our efforts to prevent a second depression have added another $1 trillion to our national debt. That, too, is a fact.
I am a believer in knowing what you're doing when you apply for a job. And I think that if I were to seriously consider running on a national ticket, I would essentially have to start now before having served a day in the Senate. Now, there's some people who might be comfortable doing that, but I'm not one of those people.
So let me just be clear here. Despite what some have claimed, the cost of the Recovery Act is only a very small part of our current budget imbalance. The last thing I will say, though, let me say this about health care and the health care debate. because I think it also bears on a whole lot of other issues. If you look at the package that we've presented, and there's some stray cats and dogs that got in there that we were eliminating. We were in the process of eliminating. For example, we said from the start that it was going to be important for us to be consistent in saying to people, if you want to keep the health insurance you got, you can keep it. That you're not going to have anybody getting in between you and your doctor in your decision making. And I think that some of the provisions that got snuck in might have violated that pledge. And so we're in the process of scrubbing this and making sure that it's tight. Of the 3.5 million jobs that will be created and saved over the next 2 years as a result of this recovery plan, 400,000 will be jobs rebuilding our crumbling roads, bridges, and schools, repairing our faulty levees and dams, connecting nearly every American to broadband, and upgrading the buses and trains that commuters take every day.
The question is, how are we going to make sure that people are getting back to work?
Jobs must be our #1 focus in 2010.
As president, that's my commitment to you, to do everything I can to make sure our economy is growing, creating jobs, and strengthening our middle class. Not a day goes by that I'm not focused on your jobs.
I'll continue also to fight for what the American people care most about: new jobs, higher wages, and faster economic growth. We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Time you shut your cake hole, Yoko!
Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that. You didn't build that. You didn't build that.
Oh.
You didn't build that.
What do we got here?
It's an air cannon for shooting marshmallows.
You didn't build that.
Mitt Romney strikes me so hard,
It makes me feel like Shirley Sherrod.
out of context.
Those words aren't mine.
Private sector is doing fine.
Feels good. When the economy's weak,
Responding with a national security leak.
Osama bin Laden, I killed. And that was a mission
You didn't build.
You didn't build that. You didn't build that. You didn't build that.
If you've given $3 before,
I'm asking again for a few dollars more. Clint Eastwood and the empty chair
would be better
than this Republican pair.
Shut up, it's my turn.
Let's wrap together.
Go ahead.
You've got a lot to learn.
Mr. Ryan.
In his bout to retail, and maybe
It's just a
brighter shade of paleness.
Mr. Romney.
And his friends on Wall Street.
What I'm saying is,
we're super packing heat.
And here is a woman
Mitt,
killed, but that was an attack ad.
you didn't
build.
You didn't build that. You didn't build that. I want everybody to give a huge round of applause to one of the best, Jennifer Granholm. Stop.
Obama time.
The race is still in play. I got to be careful about what I say.
And so, from the Australian nation,
I will be introducing these strong translations. The Republican Party and the debt ceiling fight.
Raving of the eccentric lunar right.
There are those who don't believe my birth certificate.
There are nut jobs on the internet.
To your guns. Keep on clinging to myself. I'll be singing. I'm so in love with you. What we need now is the Colbert Bomb.
But just for a minute, let's all do the
Trump.
Yeah.
Not bad, huh? You didn't build that.
I'm curious about your reaction when the president said,
You didn't build that.
That goes against everything I feel and love about this country.
You didn't build that. Hogan, this is the real American booking. You smell what Barack has cooked. Morning in America. Not quite. It's pre-dawn, but we will soon see the light.
Financial straits.
Remain dire. You've got to remember, I did not start the fire. It was notorious.
And welcome back here, folks, to the last voice for Liberty Network.
I am ready.
I am, of course, your host, the Mouth. We are here today on 4th day of December, bringing you some more news on the voter fraud, on, just roundabouts, how out of control it's gotten. This is no longer a republic. This is now it's an oligarchy. The upper echelon, the richest people in the world are running our country right now. 74% of Congress are millionaires. Think they identify with the you and me, the working guy? No. Think they identify with freedom? They care about our freedoms or our liberties or anything like that? No. They don't. All they care about is keeping themselves in power and getting their agendas and keeping them in their cushy little jobs. You want to talk about why our national deficit is so high and how the rich in this country need to pay more taxes? You know how easy it is for the Congress, these millionaires in Congress, sit there and say that? Because they're tax exempt, folks. Remember that? Tax exempt. You get paid with taxes, so they don't pay taxes. So of course they're going to want the rich to pay more because they know it's not going to affect their pocketbook. It's going to affect the rich's pocketbook, which will in turn affect the working class's pocketbook. Now, how is that, you may ask? How is that? Well, that's what Coons over there is saying. How? How can they get away with this? Because we're letting it. You've got a majority of people and the mainstream media which is telling them that Congress and these people are on our side. They're not. They're telling us these rules are good for us. Our loss of freedoms are too much. You've got ass clowns like Bob Costas coming on TV and lecturing us about guns. We'll play that clip for you here, folks. I never did anything in this goddamn studio to work. Well, that's what they're talking.
Well, you knew it was coming. In the aftermath of the nearly unfathomable events in Kansas City, that most mindless of sports cliches was heard yet again. Something like this really puts it all in perspective. Well, so, that sort of perspective has a very short shelf life, since we will inevitably hear about the perspective we have supposedly again regained the next time ugly reality intrudes upon our gauge. Please. Those who need tragedies continually recalibrate their sense of proportion about sports would seem to have little hope of ever truly achieving perspective. You want some actual perspective on this? Well, a bit of it comes from the Kansas City-based writer Jason Whitlock, with whom I do not always agree, but who today said it so well that we may as well just quote or paraphrase from the end of his article. Our current gun culture, Whitlock wrote,
I'm not even going to let this douchebag finish talking because it's just sick of me. This is at halftime. Okay? This is at halftime on a Sunday night game. This literally has nothing to do with the game. Kansas City is not playing in that game. He's going to go on to paraphrase this Whitlock character, Jason Whitlock, the Kansas City-based writer, with whom he does not always agree with, but he does on this. He does so much that he brings it up in the halftime, saying a word about it. You have no reason to say anything about this, Costas. He goes on to say, our current gun culture, Whitlock wrote, and so I'm going to paraphrase and quote Bob Costas for exactly what he said. This is the exact transcription of what he said. That our gun culture, Whitlock wrote, ensures that more and more domestic disputes will end in the ultimate tragedy, and that more convenience store confrontations over loud music coming from a car will leave more teenage boys bloodied and dead. Handguns do not enhance our safety. They exasperate our flaws, tempt us to escalate arguments, and bait us into embracing confrontation rather than avoiding it. In the coming days, Jovan Belcher's actions and their possible connection to football will be analyzed. But here, wrote Whitlock, is what I believe. This is what Jason Whitlock believes, and apparently Bob Costas. If Jovan Belcher didn't possess a gun, he and Cassandra Perkins would both be alive today. And I have one thing to say to that. Tell that to Nicole Brown Simpson. Tell that to any woman who's ever been carved up before she was raped and murdered. Tell that to anyone who slit their wrist and died lonely in their bathroom. Tell that to anyone who hung themselves, like a good friend of mine's mother did. Tell that to Chris Benoit's family. Anybody remember Chris Benoit, the professional wrestler, the Rabbit Wolverine? Guy went nuts. Strangled his wife, strangled his son, and then hung himself with his weight equipment. Are we going to ban weightlifting equipment now? That's what seriously. If you want to blame an object for killing people, let's start banning rope. Let's start no more knives, no more razors, no more sharp objects, no more or you pretty much can't have any furniture or any plastics or pieces of metal or anything else, because you can and cut yourself and injure yourself with that. So we better outlaw those, because you can kill somebody with that. We better outlaw cars, because that's 2 tons of metal and things that could kill people. The people better not possess cars. This is exactly what your argument sounds like, fool. Blaming the object, the instrument of death, for someone's actions. An instrument of death is just that, an instrument. It has to be used by a person. Guns don't just go off and you just get up, hey, I'm a gun, I'm going to walk over here and shoot somebody. And to promote the idea that people who own guns, that drives them to be confrontational, no. Being a stand-up person willing to stand up for yourself when you feel you're being wronged. I know lots of people who don't own guns that are pretty fucking confrontational. So, to claim that owning a gun makes you more confrontational and makes this a more volatile place to live, claiming that teenage bodies are going to get shot outside of convenience stores over loud music. If you're hanging in a neighborhood, number one, or you can get shot outside of a convenience store, I wouldn't play your music loud. Unless, of course, you live there. And if that's the case, I don't think that the guns are the reason your neighborhood is violent. I think the people is the reason your neighborhood is violent. To say, because they have guns. So when you take away their guns, what do you think they're going to do next? They're going to bludgeon themselves, bludgeon each other. They're going to kill each other, stab each other. You think removing guns is going to do away with murder and people are going to live? Give me a fucking break. Wake up from your little pansy-ass dream and grow a set of fucking brains and a set of fucking balls. That's just stupid. Oh, I got a gun, so that makes me invincible. You dumb kids out there, you're too fucking pussy. I just had a conversation on Facebook with a girl I went to high school with. She posted that kids on the east side need to man up and stop running around shooting, trying to shoot somebody all the time. Well, they are. There's past 2-3 weeks, some damn kid out there getting shot and messing around with a damn gun. teach children about guns. You know how much gun violence there is in Switzerland? Anybody? 0% gun violence in Switzerland. Do you know why? Because they make it mandatory to learn about gun safety. There are no gun accidents in Switzerland. Every man is required to own a rifle and to take classes on how to operate it safely and shoot it. Everyone in the country is required to learn. Now, is that the path that we want here in America, where we have to, or do we want the freedom to not have to have a gun in the house? Because if you don't believe in guns, you don't want guns in the house, fine. Don't have them. But don't run around this country and get on your media sites and believe this. We need to outlaw guns, because guns kill people. Let me tell you this, folks, they're killing people a lot longer than before guns were ever fucking made. You gotta outlaw the bow and arrow, you're gonna outlaw the slingshot, you're gonna outlaw this, you're gonna outlaw that. You're gonna put nerf coverage on the world, and it's not gonna work. That's what it is. That's where you're at, that's what you're doing. You want to put nerf coverage and make everybody say, oh, go ahead. But it ain't gonna work. You're not going to protect everybody all the time. Ask any parent with a child over the age of 2. You protect them up to about then, but eventually they're going to do something like stick their fingers in the fan or in a light socket, or they're going to get up to walk and fall down. Then eventually they go out onto their own. And you think that the rest of the world is going to nerf cover themselves just for your child? You think you're going to get everyone else to believe that we need to turn in our arms because some guy snapped? Look at this kid, Jovan Belcher of Kansas City, had it made. $1 million contract, playing professional football, starting for a professional football team, albeit it's Kansas City Chiefs, and they sucked this year. But I attribute that to Romeo Crennel. Name the last Super Bowl team Romeo Crennel coached. But this guy, he had the world on his shoulders and snapped. He snapped that way in the way that he was that he killed his girlfriend. And then said thank you to the coaches, and then killed himself. That guy's mind was already made up to die and to kill his girlfriend. Whether or not he used a gun, bashed her fucking brains in, and drove himself off a cliff or hung himself, it was irrelevant. The way he was going to dispatch them, himself and her, is completely irrelevant. It was going to happen. And for Bob Costas to get to go on national television in the halftime of a sports game and claim that guns are the reason that those two are dead is not only irresponsible, it's asinine, it's libelous, and it needs to be, he needs to be fired. They fired Dennis Miller and Rush Limbaugh for less. He needs to be fired, and I believe the NFL needs to sue him for using their airwaves and their copyrighted airtime that they pay good money for. Yes, the NFL has to pay NBC. They have to pay NBC royalties anytime people check in and watch this. NBC pays the NFL, yes. But the kickbacks all come around full circle. And if Bob Costas is allowed to keep his job after all of a sudden deciding to inject his politics into a place there where it has no... People watch sports to get away from politics. And you're going to start talking about gun control. If they didn't have guns, they'd be alive. I agree with this guy on this. He used to almost have respect for Bob Costas. I mean, most of my life, he's been the guy that's called, you know, all sorts of sporting events and games and things like this. And, you know, you hear the guy's voice on all sorts of newscasts growing up and things like this. It becomes something every time. But then they come out and decide to use their position to advance some sort of agenda. It's, oh, well, I believe this. Knowing that I've got lots of fans and my presence and my tenure in talking sports to them gives me supersedence and may, in fact, influence them and their decision. Well, you know what? I was just going to say let everybody have, you know, like there's somebody sitting at home, and there probably is. Someone sitting at home. Well, you know, I was going to think the Second Amendment was okay, but Bob Costas doesn't agree with it. I think I might have to go along with it. Does this man really think this much of himself? These people, especially these Hollywood types, and that aren't even in politics. Bob Costas is not a politician. He's not a member of a political party. I'm sure it'll be a member of the administration here coming up soon. Maybe, and just maybe, folks, he can get a new public speaking job as the voice of the new Death Star. Oh, yes. We're going to get to our final story. And the only reason I'm reporting this story, number one, is because I'm a Star Wars fan and I saw it, so I had to read it. But it sounds like a joke. And it really is. To be quite honest, it is. But it sounds like a case of may the force be with you, but at this moment, in a galaxy not too far away, I mean, right here, there's a real-life petition on the White House website pushing for the funding and the construction of a Death Star like the one featured in the Star Wars saga. This is not a joke. This is what people are using their time and effort for. I know. I'll start a petition to build a Death Star. And apparently, it's real. I went there. The specific petition is on the White House's We the People site, where so many of the secession petitions have been sent and followed. And it states, we petition the Obama administration to secure resources and funding and begin construction of a Death Star by 2016. Those who sign here petition the United States government to secure funding and resources and begin construction on the Death Star by 2016. By focusing our defense resources into a space superiority platform and weapon systems such as a Death Star, the government can spur job creation in the fields of construction, engineering, space exploration, and more, and strengthen our national defense. Well, this is real. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having a little bit of trouble saying it without laughing, but in the Star Wars movies, the Death Star was the armed battle station. In case, you know, any younger folks, I've never watched it. It was the armed battle station in space that produced enough concentrated firepower to instantly destroy a planet. And now, so far, there's no official response from the White House, of course. Why would they? But there could be one should the petition collect, 25,000 signatures by mid-December. As of Monday afternoon, more than 800 people had signed it. Now, interestingly, one of the names on the petition is Darth V. from Burlington, North Carolina, who signed the measure on December 1st. Now, Darth Vader, of course, is the legendary character from Star Wars, who was the father of Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, and was seduced by the dark side of the Force. It's so ridiculous. Will this petition get 25,000 more people to sign on to it? Probably not. A lot of the people that are sending in and setting up petitions on this White House website do so with serious intentions. I believe this was listed as a joke just to see how many people would do it. But to put it out of the realm of possibility, especially when the actions of this administration, if you'd ever watched the episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Star Wars, the similarities get really fucking creepy, to be quite honest. The similarities, even the language used. You know, it won't be too much longer before, I think, before you hear Barack Obama utter the words, "I am the Senate." We're about to wrap it up here for our show today, folks. We'll leave you on that note and say, may the force be with you. And we'll see you tomorrow on The Last Voice for Liberty Network.
When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. The utmost manifestation of love and devotion to America is today, as it always has been, resistance of tyranny.